Well, welcome to a new Harry's Farm video. And yeah, the last one I did was back at the end of August when we finished combining, the final day of that. And yes, since then, as I mentioned in that video, lots to do on the farm, basically cultivating, getting ready for when you start drilling. Cows are really loving it at the moment as well. We've had this warm weather, and the one thing we've had in 2023 is lots of rain. So yeah, loads of grass, loads of forage, so they're very happy. So what's been going on since the last one? Well, yeah, finished combining, and September, because we've dropped oilseed rate this year, is quite an easy month. As I explained in the previous video, I cultivated everything on the farm, and you do that to incorporate the straw and to sort of encourage any weed seeds to grow. And the new way of doing things is this minimal cultivation, but some people are going to zero cultivation, which is something I'll be looking at in the future. We've got a demo actually coming next week. And September is often the month for all the shows and things. And we have a great one in our area, the ploughing match. If you live in the country and you see there's a ploughing match on, whatever you do, you've got to go. It's part ploughing match, part dog show, part machinery show, just general fun had at these sort of ploughing match. And what I like about a ploughing match is actually things going on. So we've got one locally to us, and you see everything there. There's actually horse-drawn ploughs working, there's conventional ploughing, there's match ploughing, and also the one we have locally, they have the steam engine, but a glorious sight. What else was there? There was also a demonstration of older tractors there, and thatching straw and how you do all of that. I think we've got a local place where they do thatching straw, and I'm looking to visit that for next year and go through the process of how they produce straw specifically for doing thatch. The other thing at that event is there's a class for best feed wheat and milling wheat. So I obviously entered my wheat, and I'm very pleased to say I got third prize for the winter wheat this year, the actual sample itself. So I was quite chuffed with that. So last week was actually all about loading lorries, and we had 6 lorries in one day. So yeah, 29.5 tons each lorry. So as near as, damn it, 180 tons went out in one day. And very pleased to report I've got a little bit left. So yeah, my suspicions that we did have a good yield this year is true. Lots of people did not have as good a yield generally on the farm as last year. So I am very pleased to buck the trend and have a decent wheat yield. It wasn't high. We can never get really high yields, unfortunately, on this farm. And also it's, you know, it was a lot of it was second wheat this year when you don't get the high yields. But yeah, 3.12 tons to the acre wheat average, which is about 11% up on last year and about bang on where we average on this farm with first and second wheats combined. But then it's all the job of then going around getting this all cultivated, and you can sort of see how this works. So I've cultivated all this. This is part mix, this straw here. I'm slightly concerned because that's still quite wet. There's good. There's worm activity going on there. I just kicked a worm up then, obviously can't find it. It's camera shy or something. But it's also probably quite good for slugs as well. And then we come out, once we're about to drill, we are planning to drill in the next few days, start that. So about a week ago we put glyphosate on. So that is why you can sort of see that's faded, that's typical glyphosate look. That's sort of starting to yellow off. That's all done. Cows are getting even more interested now. Chickweed here. So this is generally, it's not too bad for weeds. I'm looking, this is the killer weed, this is black grass, that real light feathery sort of grass like that. That's enemy number one, and that's what you're trying to get that to chit, and then you can take it out with the glyphosate. Now, as soon as I mention glyphosate, Roundup, all the comments fill up, whoa, why are you still using that and things. I think no one really gives why we use glyphosate. The whole of modern arable farming hinges on using this herbicide that takes everything out. What's different with Roundup glyphosate, it actually travels through the plant, so you can kill the sort of deep rooted, like that thistle. They're quite hard to kill because they have a tap root. and that gives it a lot of energy. The difference with glyphosate is it goes down, translocates through the root and actually kills that, as well as the sort of easy stuff to kill like chickweed and that sort of thing. And people get very upset, and what isn't reported in the media, they love to grab hold of these things, but more research has come through. And Bayer, if you look at their website, they've constantly in court in America, and they've won the past 9 cases. So there's this one that they didn't win, and since then they've won every one. There is no evidence of it. It has been used since I was at college in the late 70s. It was the chemical that allowed us to farm in a minimal way. And what's not ever discussed is what is the alternative. Just pretend it got banned. As a farmer, how am I going to control the weeds in the field? Well, my only other choices are either multiple sprays of various herbicides for each sort of plant, a different spray for each one, so that's more chemical use, and that doesn't seem very sensible. Or you say, well, we'll go organic, we won't bother with glyphosate and we'll plough everything. Well, that's a massive increase in the amount of energy going to soil to produce the food, so food has to go up. Or you go, right, we'll go organic, and go, is that what these people want who want to stop using glyphosate? And then you're going to halve the amount of food produced in the world, so we're not going to feed everyone. So those are the hard choices, and I think it's very unfair that Bayer and glyphosate has become this target of the media, and especially so when they've been winning every single case in the courts, no report in any media. But the national media is not interested in that. It's a non-story. That's no good, that there isn't anything wrong with glyphosate. And I'm pleased actually to see the Minister of Agriculture and the current government is very supportive of glyphosate, because they realise that it's their route to net zero and minimal emissions is actually by glyphosate. It helps in this, climate change debate and reducing the amount of reliance on fossil fuels. So a slight soapbox there on glyphosate, why it's so important for us farmers. And I'm quite pleased the way this is going. The weather has changed. It has sort of brightened up. It's quite a lot of warmth. This wind will dry the soil out. So we will be drilling this in the next few days. You try and get it in October. We're all very nervous of 2020 when October was the big washout. We've had constant rain this year, hasn't really given up. We've had these odd bright spells, so we're going to max it out and do all the drilling now. Let's go off to another part of the farm, and I'll go and have a look at the wild bird mixes. You can sort of see it's just starting to mature now. The seeds are sort of setting on here, and this is, the sunflowers did come out in flower, and once they start getting heavy with seed, the heads flop over like that. And then, the birds are going to get them. What I find interesting is just cabbage-stem flea beetle and all that. Look at the decimating the kale that's down here. They don't care if it's oilseed rape or kale for wild birdseed. They still have a go at it. And I did discuss in the last couple of videos that we're radically changing how we're going to farm here. We're cutting out the break crop, cutting out oilseed rape from the mix, and the way we were going to do it is to take advantage of the government scheme, mid-tier stewardship, and the applications had to be in by the 15th of August. It seems as though I'm not the only one thinking of doing this, and what actually happened, there was such a deluge of applications, DEFRA's computer couldn't cope, and all sorts of painful, the week to building up to this deadline. They couldn't get the applications, and DEFRA had no choice but to extend the deadline to the 15th of September. So I won't know whether my application has been successful, along with the other thousands of farmers. So actually this year I'm planting the most wheat we've ever put in. So we've cut out the oilseed rape. This was going to first wheat anyway, but it's so frustrating that you enter these schemes and you have no idea whether you've been accepted or not. I'm told by my agent we might hear November, December, but you wouldn't be surprised if it's not until February. So how on earth am I meant to farm for, apply for this in good faith that it's going to work, but I don't actually find out until February, so I have to carry on as normal, and then might be accepted, and then the government are going to pay me in the end of 2024 for doing a scheme, even though I can only actually enter it by then in September 2024. That's the madness of it, but it's not as bad as it is in Wales when they haven't decided on the rates yet, but they've set a deadline for when you have to actually put in your application with no knowledge of what you're actually applying for. That is completely mad, but they're so over budget, they don't know where the money's going to come from, so they can't set the rates. Yeah, I feel for the Welsh guys. And then they've got this craziness in 2025, 10% of their farm has to go down to woodland and plant trees on it, and there's quite a few Welsh farmers saying we're just not doing that, we're just bailing and going to carry on and ignore the government. So anyway, that's a space to watch. Let's quickly go up into the sheds and you'll see what we've been doing the last few days, because the seed has come in. So here's the seed that's just come in. So yeah, Dorsum C2 is the generation of seed this is. So you grow it from C1 stock, that's where you multiply the base seed from. C2 is the next one, that's the commercial grade. And then if you home save it, we'll go and have a look at that in a moment, the CYO seed over there that I home saved, that would be C3. So it's each generation, you could keep count how many times you home save it. And I've put this latitude dressing on. It's quite an expensive dressing, it's like £200 a tonne. And as explained many times, we have first and second wheats, and if you have what you'll risk by growing continuous wheat is something called take-all. And take-all is a fungal disease, lives in the soil, and it's called take-all because it looks great, fantastic, and then you get to June and it just withers and dies and doesn't really set a seed, and that's why it takes it all, take-all. So, but a latitude is a seed dressing you can put on to wheat if you're growing in the second and third wheat position, and it minimises the risk of take-all. So that's what all that is about. Then over here, this is 10.5 tonnes of home saved seed. Now something I've noticed when CYO came up and did this, this seed, as I say, this is seed I grew. This is the wheat I grew this year, and then I've had it heavily dressed so as to make the plumpest grains I can. The seed of Dorsum seems to be quite small. So you get something called 1,000 grain weight. Sorry to go technical, but you don't actually weigh 1,000 seeds, but you weigh like 100 seeds and then multiply up. And it has a light 1,000 grain weight. This is only 41 grams 1,000 grain weight. The bought in seed I had was 45 grams. For example, last year Skyfall was 52 grams 1,000 grain weight, and that means to get the same number of plants growing on a square metre, I have to put a heavier weight of Skyfall than I do with Dorsum. I can actually cut down the seed rate and therefore save a little bit of money because the 1,000 grain weight is lower. It also makes me think, I wonder what it would have yielded had the 1,000 grain weight been 45 grams. Is that an indication that it didn't actually get full grain fill when we had smaller seeds because of the rotten, cold, weird harvest that we had, or growing season we had in 2023. So anyway, that's the next job, is all the drilling, which is going to happen the next few days. My dear Manitou, which has been as good as gold, decided to have a bit of a wobble this year. We're not quite sure, well, we think it's an electric fuel pump that's gone down on it, so I'm having to fill it up with fuel and then it runs. But yeah, you suddenly realise how much you need these Manitous for loading lorries, for doing seed, for generally filling up the grain sheds and that sort of thing. And we've got one more week basically of full activity with the drilling, which is next week. And I'll report on that in a couple of weeks' time. So there you go. There's an update on what's going on Harry's farm. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, keep watching, keep subscribing, more videos coming along very soon.